Okay, can you see that? Have you got
Yes.
that tail? I'll just close that image down a shake.
Absolutely, we can see it.
This was the image on the, what was your show? It was the, October 10th, WSO, October 10th, Earth halos and black sky orbs show approach of Wormwood. Was that what you were showing us?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep, there's that lens flare, and then there's that object with the two stripes on it.
I mean, that's, it comes and goes, it flashes in and flashes out. In the original footage that I saw, it flashes in, and it could be a lens flare. But except that it's heading away. It's heading away. You've got the four tails there.
Yes, four tails. I didn't until you said that. Now I'll know what to look for, because I've seen this many times now, Dave, from space.
And it's just flown by. Let me just show you. If I've got it, maybe this was the footage. I can't really play this video. I'll just play a moment of it, just because it's under license, so I can't open it up and play it all. That sort of stuff. But I can give you the. Oh, sorry. Breaking news: strange object falls in North Carolina sky, 22nd of September. You remember, we were all told, NATO told us that we would expect a meteorite to come, close encounter with, and there we have this thing moving exactly. I'm just going to play you just a few seconds of it. Observe the way it tracks. You can see this is not in our atmosphere. This is up in space, moving much slower. If this was in our atmosphere, it would be sliding by at a ridiculous rate. That was it, really, basically. That's as much as I can show you of that. You know what I mean? But you've got the link there. Go open it. If you've got channels, they want to license the. A lot of people put this stuff up. They know it's going to become valuable sort of stuff, because it's going to become vital that we look at this. Because if we don't shut those power stations down, we will. We have to be willing to look. We have to. In America, you've got a massive election coming up. I want to show you very. Let me just take you to the end of this timeline here. These were just a few other shots that have been coming in. It looks like a jet, but this was from the previous shot. It's just that it was on the 6th of October by the previous video maker now, 71 something star. I can't remember, Blue Star or something, Blue Star 714 or something. You'll see it in the previous video. And of course, I'm just going to pause that there and just this by my estimations is going to be, by this model and by this model of movement and by the way in which we had the earthquake the earthquakes in 2010, 2011 over here, and this whole cycle. This is how I put this together. You kind of, I'm expecting it somewhere I'm expecting the closest flyby to actually be kind of really. I've always said, the actual on the calendar day, it comes in around about mid to late January, on the 200-day timeline, mid to late January. But it could be, when I was originally doing the psychic cycles, I just thought it was being seen right at the top of its cycle, over the top of Nemesis. Now I'm realizing that it's being seen as it approaches Earth and as it leaves Earth.
Yeah.
The closest point to Earth, that is, as it goes round, and it's been a real process. So now I would guess that it's probably more like going to be mid January. But I originally always thought it would be that 200 days and then 50 days before when it would be the closest, because of the, believe it or not, how I saw it in my vision. But now I'm starting to understand.
What's the date that this shows right now, though, right, where you see these intersecting together? Well,
that is really, I've put it there, but actually the Earth would be over here, really. The real final flyby. I've put for the 50-day, that would be basically 150 days at that point. And then you'd come around to here. But remember that the angle of the red path where Nibiru actually travels, this is tilted over. So this top section here is actually further over here. And it comes out at a much shallower angle under this blue line. And I apologize, it took me so long to make this basic flash player that I just couldn't update it. And if anyone wants to work with, there's so much information here that if you want to take this information, and you're good with this stuff, please, for the better definition we can give to this. And like I say, I don't know if I'm correct, but this is the most logical timeline.
But the activist in you, though, Dave, is coming and telling us, though, that it's time for us to stop the nonsense and make sure that the nuclear plants are getting shut down. Is that your activism right now? Is that where your heart and passion is?
The basic message in this is once you've got over the shock of this thing, and you realise, okay, all the evidence is there. You know, we've got a sequential form of information that tells us. You know, it could be that there's a different model, and it has gone over the top. It's really got a much wider model, and it's out near Jupiter. And this thing that would almost suggest this thing is almost just beginning. But by my maths. And by the sightings that I've seen and I've witnessed, this thing is hiding in plain sight. And when Matthew Rogers' shot came up, exactly when I was expecting it, you know, like Venus comes up. Venus never crosses us in the night sky, does it? We see it as the morning star and the evening star. And as it approaches, when it's far away, way before it's underneath us, and we're kind of like going into a Venus transit, we see it as the morning star, and once it's come a long way from underneath us and it starts coming far enough away from us, it goes into the night sky for a short period of time. It never goes over the top. It just pops up and then pops back down. This is what in all the shots we see, it pops up and it pops back down. You don't see the shield in nighttime. You see it in daytime. It's always being protected in daylight hours. It's like an eagle. It's coming from the sun. It's coming from the bottom of the southern hemisphere of our solar system, and it's tracked in. And it's basically always come in on the horizon level of our sun, and then it's come up under the sun, over the top, but it's coming out at a much shallower angle, and that's why we're going to get a lot more challenging times. And the only way we're going to get through this is by making sure that we stay in peace. And they're going to try and get us to go into war right now. They're obsessed by war because that's the only way they can push the gods away. That's the only way they can. Can you imagine if this was a dead planet?
I think it's a prison planet, but that's just me. But you know, it's something you bring up. It's interesting, Dave, is what's happened this week with the Podesta files, and there is a discussion now taking place. Are we in the midst of full disclosure? In other words, world governments coming clean. You know, if in fact there is such a thing, what was it? The cosmic cultures entering our Earth sphere. You see, I think that a defensive weapon protecting the Earth would make a lot of sense to me. I hope that is the case.
Yeah, and this would have taken thousands and thousands of years to build.
Oh, yeah.
Massive. Yeah. You know, as I understand it, humanity, you see, I've been doing a process. It's my writing practice more than anything else, but my father's a channel, my mother's a channel, before my father died, the beginning of last year, over the last 7 years, I told him I'd been told during this ceremony, this ayahuasca ceremony, which is where the process of that kind of led to Laughing Gas, my book, which, that's not a plug, by the way. Can I just say, if you ever want to download my book, you can go to my Facebook page.
Send me the link, I'll have it up for you.
Well, it's Laughing Gas by David Field. It's Facebook page. And you can go to the book now, and you can download a free copy if you just want a free copy, and you can buy a hard copy on Lulu. If you buy it on Lulu, I actually make some money. I just want to say that as a gift for a gift. If you really do want to buy a copy, there's a free. If you just want to have it as a reference, like I have a Veliskowski copy. You know, I have a hard copy, but I do have a digital copy because I love. There's nothing better than doing a word search in a Veliskowski kind of like.
I love it.
Words in collision or something like that. If you just do word search, it's just like, what the hell? It's just magnificent. But it's there. But I was taught, I did this process my father taught me, and he said, you've got to write everything that comes through you, son. You've got to learn who you are. He said, you have to understand that you're not special. Nothing's going to come through to you that's not merited by the effort that you're willing to put in. And so he said, you have to do it 6 hours a day, every day. And so I got up 4 years. And if I ever missed any time, I'd make it up. I didn't miss any of it. It was a total and utter, I just did it for 4 years, 5 o'clock every morning. And I wrote for 6 hours a day. And that's how I ended up with Laughing Gas, my book, and other stuff that I'm working on. And this message that came through to me. And I said, I kind of got through to this space within me, perhaps, my God, the source. I don't know, it was the most beautiful space. It took an enormous effort to get there. And I said, well, when are you going to step in? And the answer I got was, at the moment, I have both feet in. But if you don't want me, I'll take both feet out. It was just like, and I was just like, what's happening? What's happening? And it said, put simply, your earth will no longer support duality. It's time for ego to have a life of its own. And through that process, it's explained this massive journey that we've been on to actually help a soul group that that actually did what we're very near to the point of, this Nibiru doesn't have to be anything more than a massive insurance job. If the full disclosure, the insurance companies would take it on the chin, wouldn't they? That's what happened. Everyone would move up. There's obviously going to be casualties. It's going to be big. We know it. But we could weather the storm if we all work together. Is it worth us even considering the amount of generators and the damage just that one nuclear power station did, to even not consider how short-sighted would that be? How blatantly rude, the amount of people that have died passing on their seed, that sacred seed, so we can exist today, and we could just pass it off because we're too cool on our social networks. Think about all those 2012ers who got lynched. We'd had the 2 largest earthquakes ever recorded in history, followed by a shifting of the Earth's axis during Fukushima. And Rupert Murdoch tells the mass media to tell us it never happened. It never happened. There was no 2012. We seen the sort of sun go into full-scale hibernation during the point when it went closest, and we can work out thereafter, especially with the sighting in October in 2013, that magnificent one over Australia that I showed earlier. We could see the point of rebound when it was actually the furthest part bounding out before it actually started making its way back round from whence it came, its U-turn point. And we've had no end of testimony. It's just like, guys, there's going to be a bump. This thing's on its way out, and we're going to go over it. And by the way it's looking, it was 2 bumps on the way in. There's likely going to be 2 bumps on the way out, but there's going to be one really close flyby, and I'm on mine. This close flyby is coming in pretty soon. It's just like, what would it hurt to switch the generators off and just try to arrange ourselves in such a way to try and do the maths here? We can see it all laid out. I might be wrong. I might be completely wrong, but at the moment, it's a very clear model. And like I say, I can account for all of it. It could be over-engineering in my own mind.
Dave, real quick, Wayne, you have to sign off. Did you have anything left to say?
Yeah, I got an appointment I got to go to. But, Dave, I've enjoyed this immensely, and I look forward to the next time we all get together.
Oh, well, Wayne, likewise, mate. It's great. Honestly, I've listened to you talk from the very beginning, man. You're a professor, man. You're an absolute professor of genius.
I'm like you. We're all searching. Man, I love you two guys. Keep it up, and we've got to stay together. Dave, you're right.
That's right.
Yeah,
we don't have to be right. We just have to be kind.
Be kind. Be kind.
That's all. You don't have to be perfect.
Steve, it sounds like it's coming to an end, but Steve, thanks for getting me on the show, man. It's been great having a chinwag, and there's nothing we can do.
We're going to have you back, Dave. I just wanted to get your take on the recent and kind of work. I want to ask you just to work on or work it into your thinking, and I'll send you this physicist paper. Work that into your thinking and your model, and see if it's possible that maybe it went over the other side of the Earth, or maybe it's just off a little bit, 6 degrees here, 6 degrees there. Just take a think at it, and if you have any feedback for the physicists, just let me know. Okay.
Have you still got me on screen there, by the way?
I do.
Okay, just while I'm here, I just did a Google Images.
Go ahead. Yeah, we're not going to get off the line. If you have more to say, say it.
Oh, just run through these very brief crop circles that I just ran through because someone sent me a crop circle and I started looking at some of them, and these were. These are sacred signs coming through to me of a, whether that's real, I don't know. This flying saucer over the top is probably someone just put that up. I doubt very much that. I mean, who knows? It's just on top.
It's hard to tell this, but go ahead. Yep.
But, you're just getting this gist of some really sacred patterns there. I'm just wondering whether there was any other.
Can we go back to something that you said that I think would be interesting? I think you said something like that. We're not going to allow duality anymore, or is that what you said?
I'd had to do a lot of work. I'd open this door through various different ways, and I'd realised that if I really wanted to do this and really wanted to write this book, then I had to put all these kind of like tools aside, if you like, the ayahuasca, the whatever else, the psychedelics that are so available to this, because we're on a different frontier. Just on the psychedelic frontier that's happening in this world is as wonderful and as amazing as the technological frontier that's happening in this world. And this is one of the reasons why the governments are so terrified about psychedelics, because doors that people are opening. But these are doors that we can open on a very temporary level. And they're doors that are very difficult to control. And when it comes to doing kind of levels of channeling, like my father was trying to teach me, it just requires a lot of dedication and a lot of intention and a focus. And you don't need any stimulants at all. You just need, it's your purpose. It's like, you can knock on this, you can humble yourself to this great, however you see your God, whatever, however,
I went through with this experience. It's like, as I've humbled myself for lack, I have very few words that can describe this other than I submit to my destiny. I don't need drugs. I don't need alcohol. When
No,
you
totally, exactly.
destiny, it's like every day is high. Every day is a new adventure of knowledge and amazement and wonder. And we talk about this all the time, Dave. Actually, you'll be interested in this, and then I'll let you go back to your what you want to say.
No.
The loss of the sense of wonder is the sign that your heart is dying.
Exactly.
And and when I say sense of wonder, remember when we were kids and we were running in the woods and we could make up any scenario and we would be living literally in that scenario. Seriously, man, kids have the ability to whip up an artificial world with their imagination and then dive into it and be there. You know that I'm saying is true. You experienced it yourself as a child.
Yeah, totally.
So to me, one of the most important things that Yeshua, Jesus, or whatever the Bible conveyed, well, if you believe, whatever you believe about that, I believe it was you know what? I don't even care what I believe. It doesn't matter what I believe. But when he said to be as a child, to see the kingdom of God, you have to become as a little child. That's what he was talking about. And you have that sense of wonder, Dave. I can hear it. I can hear the passion. It's like when you make a discovery or you think about something, and you can literally live on that, and that gives us plenty of dopamine, doesn't it?
Yeah, totally.
You know? And I'm just telling you guys out there that, when you find that purpose or that spot or that cog or that thing that that the divine or, we call it the way. I think the way is a great way to say it, or the Holy Spirit. What I'm totally full of sometimes is the Holy Spirit. It's an amazing experience. But I can also tell you one thing. Love is eternal. Love will not fail. And I don't care what perspective that you come from. In order for you to appreciate that, that is something you have to become a child to appreciate. You can't appreciate divine love with an adult mind.
And sometimes, with the first time I had that experience with the communing, I felt so humbled, but I felt so almost, it was a very beautiful experience. And I can remember being there in this presence when I'd opened this door and I said, when do you step in? And it said, at the moment I have both feet in, but if you don't want me, I'll take both feet out. And I had this kind of narration and it was all coming out of my writing. It was just kind of like this flow of this content. And I was opened this door and I said, but you understand, I didn't come here because it showed me in a vision, the other side, if you like, my body on the other side, and friends of mine on the other side in this other world, and in this vision. And I said, you understand, I didn't come here to find out about this other world. I came here to, what driven me was the 40,000 times more radioactive waste that was generated by the Hiroshima bomb that was dropped, that has been dumped on Iraq by during the 2003 Iraq war, and the devastation of nuclear waste that has already been perpetrated. And I was so heartbroken by this because of this whole experience I'd had, where on this laughing gas experience I was connected to all this pain. I was there in a bit of a compromised state and that sort of stuff, probably not really looking after myself at the best, just a bunch of mates. I was really drunk because it was all a bit, and suddenly I was just in a moment, I was just connected to all of the pain. It was what it felt like. It was like having a complete nervous breakdown, but I saw a whole sequence of things in that moment. And so that kind of led me to there. And when I was there at this point in this writing stream, I said, you understand, I didn't come here to find out about heaven or anything else like that. I said, I only came here to try and find out how to stop the atrocities happening on my world. And the answer I got, and it filled me with so much love, Steve. It filled me with this love. It said, don't worry about your earth. It said, I've already deployed my best. Unprecedented peace will now be waged upon your earth. And it filled me with bliss. Honestly, I was sitting there and I cried I just cuddled myself up in this ball of bliss and I just wept with joy. Honestly, I just couldn't break out. It was so blissful. It was so powerful. I could do nothing but cry my eyes out. And I feel like this energy has worked with me a lot whilst I've been doing this process and guiding me. And I feel that presence in a lot of people. And I feel like I totally see it in your work, Steve. I really do. You turn to the Bible and you bring this in, but you're also open to understand and translate. And it's in that translation that we are doing our biggest.
Yeah, and I am in touch with the Christ consciousness. I am in touch with God through Christ, just like the Bible says. And I want Christians that have also had that same experience to come along. And what we are trying to encourage in this channel and be a bridge to Christians that want to come into and understand what this next dimension looks like, number one. And number two, to warn people, not so much to warn them of what's going to happen. I don't think that's going to really have too big of an impact. But there's a lot of people that are going to be ascending through this process, including our whole Earth. And what I mean by that is we are going to pass through this time of trouble. And the Bible says we're going to go into a millennium time of peace and joy and like a Star Trek kind of future. The Bible says that, you guys. Okay. So if somebody that you would call New Age comes up and says the same thing, do you think you're hearing from the same vibration or the same God? Do you think you're hearing from the same divine source of love? And I can tell you for a fact, regardless of your label, either you know God or you don't.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Live it in your actions, man. We have to translate the Bible, not into words anymore. It's time to translate the Bible into actions and deeds. You know what I mean? Because we're going to be challenging this. It's time to live that truth out. And you're definitely doing that with what you're doing. You know, we're having to adjust our beliefs all the time and to open our mind. We're constantly having to break down our beliefs. We can't really get rid of them, but what we can do is we can outgrow them. And we translate things sometimes in ways that limit our view of the world, and sometimes, and we've got to realize that we can translate the Bible in many different ways. And when we are thinking, when we're encoding the beautiful fundamental messages of the Bible, which are just beautiful journeys of that we can understand, these almost Shakespearean tales, of beautiful tales that show real clear justice, you know, rather than getting too lost in the text, which we know is a translation. Why I often talk about Mary Magdalene up here, because if we're going to think about Jesus, we've got to think about what was Jesus's kind of like, what was his muse? Maybe it wasn't Mary Magdalene, but I've got a funny feeling there was a muse there, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if it was Mary Magdalene. And that's why I often follow the story of the Cathars up here in the Pyrenees and look at similarities in that story, because it's the plight of going to the true Gnostic way, which is into the heart. I went to a Cathar talk recently, and the first thing they showed you was all the zodiac. This was at a Cathar talk. They came to Glastonbury, and they showed the zodiac, and it was all around the room, all what we would call the zodiac. And they said, "See around you, you're a zodiac." And everyone was just like, "Yeah." And they said, "This is your prison." They said, "This is the limitation you have placed on your universe that you do not see beyond." That's how they started, man. It was just like, you got a big universe all around you.
On the one hand, you say you're humble, Christian or Muslim or whatever, right? But yet you get to define the universe? I'm sorry, wait. Doesn't humility imply that you don't know? So what makes you think you know so many things? That's the thing that's been unraveling me. That's what the thing that the Creator's been doing to me, is to say, look, man, if you're going to admit that you don't know anything, then when I teach you something, you can't throw up on it. You don't get a right to throw up on it. You ask me a question, and I'm telling you the truth. There are multiple races in the universe. The Father told me that. The Father told me that there's a rescue mission on its way for us right now. Yeah, that's what he told me. Now, you can think I'm crazy, but I'm also here to tell you that there's hope. But just like what my brother here, Dave, is saying, David is saying, look, man, we can't, just because we're going to have another pass by of a celestial event doesn't give us the right to destroy the whole planet.
Yeah, I mean, that's just an insurance job, isn't it? Let's be honest, it's just an insurance job. If those reactors go bang, that's end game scenario. You've seen the damage. And if it's, like I say, and I keep stressing this point, if, outside of whatever opinion you might have of me or Steve or anyone who talks about this sort of stuff, is there any part of you that would want those generators shut down during a predicted, estimated, if we could put an estimated time together of when this thing is likely most going to affect us, how much of a percentage, when would you sort of turn around and say, actually, you might be mad, but maybe we should shut down the generators for that time? The rest, however we get through it, if everyone chooses, they're going to present us with an opportunity of war. They want war at the moment. They want to lower the vibration as much as possible. They want to prove, because if our vibration is low, the gods can't help us because they cannot aid a process. That's my message. If this planet is of war, this war cannot go from this place, because that which created it would thus be a war itself. So there cannot be war. I was told unprecedented peace will now be waged upon your earth, that we approach a wall and nothing will get past the wall that is not which is of war. Literally, there's an old phrase that says, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall, Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. 80 men and 80 more couldn't place Humpty where he was before. That was the original translation of the Humpty Dumpty text. And of course, it originated around about the time of the Civil War the English Civil War. It was against who was it? Charles I against Cromwell. And about the 1700s, I think, late 1700s. I can never remember the exact. My history is absolutely awful. But anyway, that phrase came at that time, and it was kind of, the whole country was literally openly divided. It was just like the Brexit vote in England. It was a very public thing. Well, who are you going to side with, Cromwell, or do you think you're going to side with Charles I? It was a very open. There's still correspondence available today. And of course, the Humpties were the ones that didn't choose. The Humpties were what we would call the non-voters. The ones that didn't choose either side, and of course, they're the ones who actually have the most power out of all. But they're the ones where the whole media campaign is really all about. That's what it's really all about, is the Humpties. And really, that if all the power that is available now, I would tell everyone that really this is all about, that you're the biggest problem here is not Nibiru, it's not Nemesis, it's the nuclear power stations that are going to be in operation during this passage. That's what this is all about. That's what this is all about. And the grace of God is going to be needed within us, but only by living that grace to the fullest. As it says in the Bible text, as it says in the, follow the grace, translate it to the highest good, not the lowest, not the lowest. Use all the knowledge and teachings you've got to be the best human you can be right now. We've got to be able to look at this. We've got to be able to be the best people we are. We've got to walk the wisdom. Now, we've got to bring the teachings, we've got to bring the translations of these teachings into our lives now. Lovely girl from Virginia, bless her, just put me a lovely cup of tea, has just showed up, and I'm just looking at the time, and you realise it's
nearly... I'm sorry, I didn't even think. Right.
I've got Michael Rivero's website open here. What really happened, and he just scrolls lots of articles and that sort of stuff. I do love Michael Rivero. I've always been a great fan of his. I was a bit gutted when he was very pro the whole Brexit thing. I've got to be honest, because I was obviously, I'm in Europe now, you know what I mean, and whether I personally wanted to be part of Europe. I like the trade links and everything else like that, and we've heard that what Theresa May kind of said at the beginning of the month, saying that the border securities is more important than trade with the bloc, as in the European bloc, and that has terrifying implications by that phrase. We've seen this latest news that Britain is going to make it. I don't know how difficult Britain's going to make it for this Russian aircraft carrier to pass by our waters, but that's coming up in the next few days. That's causing a lot of attention. But he's just brought this little this article up, and it's very interesting. Publish a world map and mark all the US military bases on it, and I chanced upon it, but I just noticed that the sentence that Putin actually came out with, that he's highlighted here, is very telling. This is so Michael Rivera. He always gives a little sort of like cover of kind of the overall picture. But this is Putin. He says, "Let me tell you something. There is no need to fear Russia. The world has changed so drastically that people with some common sense cannot even imagine such a large-scale military conflict today. We have other things to think about, I assure you."
Yes, we do, don't we?
Those underground. So he's not thinking about a military action, but he's building massive underground bases. But he's not considering any full-scale military action. So what does he mean by that? Why would you build underground bases? And I'm of the mind that Putin speaks a lot of truth. I've got to be honest with you. I've seen the way he's conducted things. I've seen what's happened in Syria. People think he's just there, so he's going to cash in on the sort of rebuild. He was invited in by Assad. This is all efforts to make a war happen. We don't want to fall into this horrible future story. We're just going to have to realize we're going to have to try and do everything to wage peace at this stage. We know what's got to happen. Our priority, believe it or not, is getting those nuclear power stations switched off right now. Believe it or not, that is it. We might all kill each other, bloodshed, and just leave a few left. But if those nuclear power stations are still there, that those people, whoever left, they don't have a future. And no matter how few of us are left, nature will take over. If we can stop those nuclear reactors going off everywhere through the passage of this, if we have too much social network status to even consider this, because it's just, it damages climate change, or I'm earning good money out of the whole climate change story, and this ruins the whole thing. However you see it, whatever it is, you've just got to really decide how cool you are right now, and how much whether this really needs any attention, because this corroborates. Don't it, Steve? You know yourself. This is just too big.
It is too big, and I think you're right. The wage peace thing has just resonates with me. That's the other thing I heard. I've heard before too. Is I've heard waging love, waging peace, and people. I'm telling you, weapons of peace and love are just as world changing as weapons of like military conflict. So you can see in history how military conflict has changed the map of the world, things like that. You don't understand. When you wage peace, it changes universes. It changes galaxies. So you don't understand what you're dealing with. This is a peace, not movement. This is a peace invasion.
Steve, you realize you're a Gnostic. I realize you are a Christian Gnostic, mate. I don't know if you actually
it killed me so hard so many times. The fact that I'm even alive right now surprises me. Most of my ancestors and my women would have been... What?
You speak your truth. You speak your truth. The most powerful thing you can ever do in these times is speak your truth. That is the most powerful being.
How can you argue against peace? How can you argue against love? How can you argue against faith? How can you argue against hope? Tell me what's wrong with that. Tell me what's wrong with that, you hypocrites. Because I'll tell you something. Peace is coming.
Amen.
And it will change your behavior. Yes,
Amen. And our women. Amen. And our women. It's a bit like his story. Her story.
And then I have to, like, again, when you start to realize that the truly it was, one of the things that Genesis definitely makes clear is that there was a war on women from the beginning. And this war, this bitterness against our most important resource, obviously we're all important, but how can you turn the back on the maternal? How can you turn the back on the first 10 to 15 years of your development and just throw that out the window and assume that it has no impact in any cosmic scale? The father has very little influence on you, buddy. Let me tell you right now, it's your mama that raised you. It just was. Or your grandmama.
Yes.
Your grandpa raising the kids, right?
Yeah. It's totally
so
true.
The maternal and the female and the power of the feminine, along with the fact that God is love and he's not an asshole. He loves people so much, Dave. He is she in my world. And she, the God of all creation and universe, is in love with you, man. It's like a love story, times a million, man. It's like this being is knocked out with us and does not like the state we're in right now. Does not like it at all.
Amen to that, brother.
Then you go to the Buddhist, and I got more comfort from this. This is in the early stages of my knowledge of this. And I'll let you go, Dave, because I know your lovely girlfriend's there. But in the Buddhist religion, they talk about cataclysm in the kind of the same cyclical way that a Hindu might, right? And but in the Buddhist mind, it's all part of the natural process, and they know that mankind has a tendency to get so evil and so hard-hearted that every so often nature just has to come down and whoop our ass.
Buddha obviously talks about the hungry ghosts and things like that, and I've talked about that in some of my videos about Mars, and I've got some because I came into my whole story about Nibiru via Mars, and that's when Davy Dobbs was considered really quite mad, but it was quite a friendly mad. It was just like, Davy's on one about Mars, blah 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 blah. But it was through Mars that I actually discovered Nibiru. I had to obviously get into the geology of Mars greatly, and the whole geology of Mars kind of brought me to the whole kind of, I suppose, what's his name? Who does the Lovelock? James Lovelock, the whole kind of Gaia theory sort of side of it, and he's had to try and find a real simple understanding. He's really kind of brought a lot of information together to try and come up with a very simple explanation of the carbon cycles and showing carbon cycles and what have you, and not just the concept of Earth as in trees releasing oxygen and breathing in carbon dioxide, and humans obviously and animals breathing in oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide, and this simple circle. But he's showing how how I would translate how the moon makes the sea salty, how the moon's movement create the waves trap oxygen, trap air. Carbon dioxide gets drawn into the water into carbonic acid. Carbonic acid separates the calcium out of well, not so much granite, but out of basalt anyway, which is the main content of the upper part of the magma of this Earth, which makes up, like Hawaii is mostly basalt. It's and how you see this breakdown process, and this absorbs massive volumes of carbon dioxide, and in the process breaks down the actual rock into all these minerals, releases. It literally takes the two molecules of carbon dioxide, literally separate calcium from bedrock and produce like clay-like mass. It's like the kingpin taken out of matter. It's the way in which life is made. Without the carbon dioxide, you couldn't take the calcium kingpin out. Without carbon dioxide mixed with water anyway, you couldn't separate the calcium kingpin and release the entire range of minerals that go to make up life. And it was through this process that I'd kind of slowly discovered and worked out what had happened to Mars, and it brought me back to sort of like this whole kind of, this is how I was brought into it, if you like, through my guiding. You know, I was thinking, what the hell am I doing researching Mars? And this all came because of this research, because I was asked, without going too much, because it's such a crazy story, Steve, but I was asked at my sort of one stage if I wanted to see my ego. And when I'd first opened up communication, it told me we'd been invaded, and it told me this whole story. It didn't mention Mars or anything else like that. I was piecing that together for another story already. It was like all the information was coming together. And as soon as I kind of said invaded, and it said, well, it wasn't really an invitation. It was an invasion. It was more like an invitation. It said, we marveled at what they had. They marveled at what we had. And because we kind of invited them in, they brought all their oceans with them. So you can imagine when I started this and I was shouting out the water from the Great Flood came from Mars, and I was showing all this evidence. I had no idea about Nibiru. I was following this whole kind of Buddhist text, putting a whole other series of information together, saying, guys, I know it sounds crazy, but you know, if you don't really want to, you can believe what you like, but ultimately the Earth has just gone from 60 million years to being 4.4 to 4.6 to 4.8 billion years old, just because of the discovery of some zircon around about the Seychelles and various deposits that has just jumped the age of Earth to the same age as Mars, exactly, as in the exact same zircon fingerprint. Zircon being the oldest, you know, carbon-16 dating takes you up to what, 2,000? What is it? 2,600. So sorry, 5,600. So it's about 2,400, 2,500, 24,000 years, sorry, about 24,000 years in total through carbon-16, all the different half-lives. Zircon, you're talking, as far as we know at the moment, the oldest mineral known to man, known in the universe to us at the moment, zircon. Quartz crystal with plutons in it. It can be aged because of its radioactive. The bleed rate gives you the kind of time date. But obviously, those plutons would break down in if they weren't contained in something that could weather for that long. And so that's how it's become the oldest aged mineral known. You've got the same age on Mars, you've got the same age on Earth, and the historians have just got to get busy for the next probably 60 million years trying to fill the next 4.4 point whatever it is billion years that they've now got to fill, because they can't see the obvious link that Mars has got massive evidence of oceans, massive evidence. They called it the Noachian period. They just disappeared out of absolutely nowhere. You're trying to work out where they've gone, and then you've got Earth that's got exactly the same fingerprint as in sand. That's 4.8 billion years. It's either been, and the arrival of a massive ocean. I mean, it's not exactly that complicated. You know, if you're a plumber, you wouldn't be trying to just disbelieve it and throwing it off. You'd just be looking for the leak. You'd just be looking for the leak if you're a plumber. You know, you'd be seeing the correlations and thinking, how can they have the same fingerprint? One has a massive loss of oceans and a massive gash, the biggest gash. Sorry to call it a gash, but it really looks like an absolute massive gash. I was going to say the Emperor Hawaiian seamount change, but to me that's the opposite of their. What's the big fault line on Mars? It runs a quarter of. Is it the San Andreas or the? No, that's on Earth, isn't it? There's two fault lines. There's one on Earth and there's one on Mars. Valles Marianis, 4,000 kilometers long, 200 kilometers wide, 7 kilometers deep, quarter of the Earth's circumference, perfectly straight, and you have almost the mirroring kind of fault line on Earth with what basically connects the two largest volcanoes. No, I'm saying that Mars had this exact same thing going on. This is the same story repeating itself. And Mars chose to go into war. It detonated a hole before it passed. It wanted to escape this because those that were ruling on Mars were totally of war. They were aggressive. They were invading other worlds. When it showed me Nibiru in a vision, it was so shocking. I went to my computer, no ayahuasca or anything. It was just a perfect vision. It was the first vision of it, and I was woken with a vision of it. I went straight to my computer after seeing it, and I went straight to that space. It sometimes takes me months to get into that space, Steve. I have to research thoroughly until I'm thoroughly researched. It says you write half and I write half. That's what it says to me. I have to do my research, as it won't give me anything. If I'm not willing to come halfway and do the maximum amount of research and do the maximum amount of effort, it will not spill the beans. It just works like that. But when I saw it, I went straight into that space after the vision. I went straight in. I opened my computer first thing in the morning, and I just said, "It misses, doesn't it?" And the answer I immediately got was, yes, it misses. It is not human karma. It is deemed you are not a race at war, but you are a race subverted with war, and that will now change. And I was just released from it. I was like, okay, thank you. Just wanted to make sure, because that looked pretty close flyby as far as I could see. I mean, I couldn't believe I was seeing the flyby that I saw. It was a magnificent vision. It's very, very clear. It was a full-on experience. And it was like I was totally there. It was totally real in my field of view. I was completely awake in it. It wasn't like a little bit like, oh, it could have been, or what. The whole thing was totally clear. And that was the message I got directly after, was that we're not like Mars, because it showed me the destruction of Mars, and then I tried to work out what a new world order, and it told me what a new world order was, and that we are this new world order. And when you destroy a world and they have and you're bodiless, as in what the Buddha was called, which is why I'm going down this corridor with you. It sounds a bit of a stray going around, but Buddha talked about the hungry ghosts and how we're working with the hungry ghosts. And they were led into a very destructive pathway. And so they had to be allowed to experience to the full end their destructive pathway. They were offered, Steve, a new world order. And their new world order, they weren't actually invited directly into that new world order. They were left where they were on a dead world. Their only way they could have an experience, was as egos through us, transmitted through fourth dimensional kind of like science. It's science. To transmit psychically is no longer super science. We're starting to understand it ourselves. It was transmission sent by fourth dimensional science as I'm understanding it. This is kind of along the message, and what I'm understanding is that the communications that we're all getting in, that the high communications that are coming into our heart are coming from a higher place, and they're coming from fifth dimensional transmissions. And through that's, if you like, you could call that heaven. That's where our light beings are. That's where I was invited to go and see my higher self, or see through the eyes of my higher self, and see this other world the castles and the world that we build in the sky with the things that we love and all our endurance. That's where we're really building here. This is the world that we've built for ourselves through this whole process. We're all angels here. We're all angels. But it's duality, where we've actually been helping this soul group, as Buddha called them, these hungry ghosts, to slowly raise their vibration and get them ready to come back into the table of life. And so what he explained to me is we've had to live out everything that happened on Mars. So we could, if you like, drop down to their vibration. Not to say they were on a low vibration, but they were on a very warring vibration. So there's been an exchange. Domination through this, unless you can rise above it, domination, which has been it's been an incredible anvil for the anvilers to forge, like a soul is forged upon these anvils. And there's very rarely been opportunities that Earth has given for this massive evolutionary step on so many different levels, on the human level, on the ego level, massively increasing their chances of raising their vibrations so they can have a sustainable life again. And then also the soul level, massive opportunities for souls from all over the universe to come and experience opportunities of huge, massive transmigration of consciousness, transmigration and transmutation and evolving on so many different levels. The universe has recycled so much of this opportunity. Nothing has been wasted in this entire experience. I can promise you that we've been through. It has been, even though it seems so perilous, now is our opportunity to wake up and engage and realize the most important thing is the sacred genetic energy and information on this planet. Our genetic information, all the plants and everything else, all the seeds. This is where we can touch God. This is what we've got to do. If we want to touch God, then we are God embodied in this sacred genealogy, in all of this genetic information which makes life on this earth. This is where all our attention needs to go, all our attention. If we can focus on that, and not let this go into a complete nuclear disaster. If those nuclear reactors are shut down, even if they get smashed open, they're still not pumping out radiation. Not like Fukushima. When you go into meltdown, you are spewing radiation. Protons and neutrons are leaking out of that. It's going to return to lead eventually, but it's going to spew radiation. It's going to spew toxic radiation. We can avert that by simply cooling those things down, shutting everything down, getting everything to a stable place for the passage. See the image I've got there, Nemesis being eclipsed by and plasma discharge. These sort of bodies we are going to pass. They're next to the sun. They're not in our night sky. They're just coming. I mean, that is our night sky. Don't get me wrong, but you can see that they're only just come. They're very near the horizon level. They're just coming up now at that point, and they will go back down again a little later because we're just getting the views of them. We're coming round to that point now, Steve. But they're there. Steve, Jeff's caught them. It's real. It's happening. I might be wrong with what I'm getting. This is my translation of how I receive these words.
No, because look, it's coming to this is all rational discussion here. You know, that's the thing that really bothers me is they try to make us look irrational when I feel like we're having the most rational discussion any two men can have on this earth right now. We're talking about compassion. We're talking about love. We're talking about togetherness, that we're all one. We're talking about shutting down nuclear reactors prior to a cataclysmic event, knowing a plan for that. Can anybody tell me what we're saying wrong here?
It's a difficult subject, though, isn't it?
But you're going to make me look like I'm the rational man in the room. I'm asking you to shut your nuclear reactor down. That's a rational thing to say, isn't it? Sorry, I'm very emotional. You know that now. Now you know me. A little better.
Listen, Steve, lovely being on your show, and great. I'm so pleased we did it with Wayne Steiger as well. He is absolute legend, and I'd advise anyone to really start. You know, he's got some great things to say. He'll take you through it bit by bit. The great thing is that if you watch both Steve's, I'll just say this for you, Steve, for your benefit as well as Wayne's. If I watch your work if I catch the next day's footage before anyone's had the chance to take anything down, you can literally go onto the NASA sites and you can literally click on these images and follow you guys along. And I do it all the time, and I try and track it down. I'm like, oh my god, all the time I'm doing it, and then I disappear later. And
you got to do it yourself. You got to go download a Sechi movie and see it and watch it yourself. We're not making this stuff up, man. It is there. And
Matt Rogers, great to see you back on the show, man. Great to see you back on the show. But do us a favour, man, just get the whole video up there. Let people trawl through it, because I'm noticing that people really like the whole information. And though they're long videos, you can put breakdowns and that sort of stuff. But my advice right now is get it up there. Do what you feels best, man. But just know that right now, people are clicking on this like crazy. They want to know what the hell's going on. Like you say, the big message from the White House coming down, saying there's something coming in, whatever they're saying. You've got the same thing from Russia, same thing from Merkel, same thing from Finland. Everyone else is sort of like, it's just like, guys, do the maths now. Do the maths. Yeah, that's right. All right, well, thanks for coming on the show. We'll talk to you soon. Okay, can you see that? Have you got that tail? I'll just close that image down a shake. Absolutely, we can see it. This was the image on the, what was your show? It was the, October 10th. WSO, October 10th, Earth Halos and Black Sky Orbs show approach of Wormwood. Was that what you were showing us? Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep, there's that lens flare, and then there's that object with the two stripes on it. I mean, that's, it comes and goes, it flashes in and flashes out. In the original footage that I saw, it flashes in, and it could be a lens flare. But except that it's heading away. You've got the four tails there. Yes, 14. I didn't until you said that. Now I'll know what to look for, because I've seen this many times now, Dave, from space. And it's just flown by. Let me just show you. If I've got it, maybe this was the footage. I can't really play this video. I'll just play a moment of it, just because it's under license, so I can't open it up and play it all. That's just. But I can give you the. Oh, sorry. Breaking news: strange object falls in North Carolina sky, 22nd of September. You remember, we were all told, NATO told us, that we would expect a meteorite to come, close encounter with it. And there we have this thing moving exactly. I'm just going to play you just a few seconds of it, just so you observe the way it tracks. You can see this is not in our atmosphere. This is up in space, moving much slower. If this was in our atmosphere, it would be sliding by at a ridiculous rate. That was it, really, basically. That's as much as I can show you of that. You know what I mean? But you've got the link there.
Yeah.
Go open it. If you've got channels, they want to license the. You know, a lot of people put this stuff up. They know it's going to become valuable sort of stuff because it's going to become vital that we look at this. Because if we don't shut those power stations down, we will. You know, we have to be willing to look. We have to. You know, in America, you've got a massive election coming up. I want to show you very. Let me just take you to the end of this timeline here. These were just a few other shots that have been coming in. It looks like a jet, but this was from the previous shot. It's just that it was on the 6th of October by the previous video maker now, 71 something star. I can't remember, Blue Star or something, Blue Star 714 or something. You'll see it in the previous video. And of course, I'm just going to pause that there and just this by my estimations is going to be, by this model and by this model of movement and by the way in which we had the earthquake in sort of like the earthquakes in 2010, 2011 over here, and this whole cycle. This is how I put this together. You kind of, you know, I'm expecting it somewhere in. I'm expecting the closest flyby to actually be kind of really. You know, I've always said, you know, the actual on the calendar day, it comes in around about, I think, about mid to late January, on the 200-day timeline, mid to late January. But it could be when I was originally doing the cycles. I just thought it was being seen right at the top of its cycle, over the top of Nemesis. Now I'm realizing that it's being seen as it approaches Earth and as it leaves Earth.
Yeah.
The closest point to Earth, that is, as it goes round, and it's you know, it's been a real process. So now I would guess that it's probably more like going to be mid January. But I originally always thought it would be that 200 days and then 50 days before when it would be the closest, because of the, believe it or not, how I saw it in my vision. But now I'm starting to understand.
What's the date that this shows right now, though, right, where you see these intersecting together?
Well, that is really, I've put it there, but actually the Earth would be over here, really. The real final flyby. That's, I've put for the 50-day, that would be basically 150 days at that point. And then you'd come around to here. But remember that the angle of the red path where Nibiru actually travels, this is tilted over. So this top section here is actually further over here. And it comes out at a much shallower angle under this blue line. And I apologize, it took me so long to make this basic flash player that I just couldn't update it. And if anyone wants to work with, there's so much information here that if you want to take this information, you can, and you're good with this stuff, please, for the better definition we can give to this. And like I say, I don't know if I'm correct, but this is the most logical timeline.
But the activist in you, though, Dave, is coming and telling us, though, that it's time for us to stop the nonsense and make sure that the nuclear plants are getting shut down. Is that your activism right now? Is that where your heart and passion is?
The basic message in this is once you've got over the shock of this thing, and you realise, okay, all the evidence is there. You know, we've got a sequential form of information that tells us. You know, it could be that there's a different model, and it has gone over the top. It's really got a much wider model, and it's out near Jupiter. And this thing, that would almost suggest this thing is almost just beginning. But by my maths and by the sightings that I've seen and I've witnessed, this thing is hiding in plain sight. And when Matthew Rogers' shot came up exactly when I was expecting it, you know, like Venus comes up. Venus never crosses us in the night sky, does it? We see it as the morning star and the evening star. And as it approaches, when it's far away, way before it's underneath us, and we're kind of like going into a Venus transit, we see it as the morning star. And once it's come a long way from underneath us and it starts coming far enough away from us, it goes into the night sky for a short period of time. It never goes over the top. It just pops up and then pops back down. This is what in all the shots we see, it pops up and it pops back down. You don't see the shield in nighttime, you see it in daytime. It's always being protected in daylight hours. It's like an eagle. It's coming from the sun. It's coming from the bottom of the southern hemisphere of our solar system, and it's tracked in. And it's basically always come in on the horizon level of our sun, and then it's come up under the sun, over the top, but it's coming out at a much shallower angle, and that's why we're going to get a lot more challenging times. And the only way we're going to get through this is by making sure that we stay in peace. And they're going to try and get us to go into war right now. They're obsessed by war because that's the only way they can push the gods away. That's the only way they can. Can you imagine if this